Infrastructure is crumbling and the problems are only getting worse. The pressure to find solutions is hot. Let's talk about why American cities have no water, no electricity, and no money to fix their infrastructure problems. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast, hosted by Chad Smeltzer.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I am your host. Today's guest is Dan Kaup with the City of Wheeling, Illinois. He's the Public Works Director. Thank you for joining me, Dan. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's my pleasure, and thanks for asking me to be on the show.
Excited to have you, Dan. I've heard a lot of good things about you. You're progressive. You have a lot of experience in the industry, over 13 years from what I could count, which is a lot. And then the first thing we do in this podcast is learn more about how you got into the industry and why did you want to be in public works?
Yeah, I think that there are a few people in this world who would say that they started out in fifth grade wanting to get into a career in public works, and I don't think I'm any different. I went to college for arts and sciences. I got a degree in history and political science, and while I was in school, I had started as a seasonal for the Public Works Department in Northbrook, and I enjoyed it enough that when I graduated from college, I decided to apply for a full-time position as a maintenance worker. Not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, I had taken the LSAT, I took the GRE, and just wanted a paycheck, and it was fun. And so for the next 5 years, I was a maintenance worker, working for the streets division and doing concrete and asphalt and snow plowing in the winter. I really enjoyed all of it. I subsequently got my master's degree in public administration and was then considered for the position of assistant to the village manager in Northbrook. And I was in that position for 5 years after that. So 2002 to 07, 07 to 12. And during that time, I got a period, a look at what the administration side of the public administration really is, and how municipalities work, and how the governance process happens. And it was something that I really enjoyed, but I also did miss public works. And so in 2012, I applied for and was hired to be the public works director for the village of Brookfield. And at 32 years old, I was a public works director, and I really didn't know what I was doing.
Interesting.
Pardon?
I said interesting. No, I was just going to kind of go back to what you were saying and talk about, what's curious on my end is understanding where you were a maintenance worker and then you decided to get that degree, right? And then go through school. What was the deciding factor there that you were just like, I want to move up, I want to advance? Because you said at the beginning, you were money driven, right? I mean, that's kind of the way I got into workforce, is like money, but just curious on that process for you.
Sure. I was partially, he was like, oh, look at what the superintendents make here. They're, you're rolling in it. But I wanted to do as much as I could. And at the time I loved the actual work. I loved working with my hands. I loved, finishing concrete. I loved being on the ground finishing concrete. I loved, paving asphalt. But yeah, I was like, I could be a supervisor. I could be a superintendent. And it never crossed my mind that I would be much, that's what my goal was.
Yeah.
Having an exposure to the administrative side of things after I went back for my MPA, completely, blew all that apart. And, I really started to enjoy the fiduciary responsibility of managing assets and infrastructure from the perspective of, hey, we're playing with other people's money. And it's important that we contemplate how our decisions impact people's tax rates and their enjoyment of the community in which they live. And that different perspective offered through having a better understanding of management really changed my understanding of what I wanted to do, still in municipal government, but from a different vantage point.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, look, you got to have, even in business and government. I mean, to move up, you have to want to move up. You have to get yourself educated to want to learn more about what you're going to move into, right? If you want to be a public works director, you have to meet this criteria, right? I mean, that's what you have to do, and you got to get that education to do that. And you took the steps you needed to do that, and that's impressive because you don't see a lot of that happening. More and more it's happening, but if you stay a maintenance worker, it's almost like we it's it's something that everybody just doesn't want to do. I climb trees, for example. I didn't want to climb trees after a year and a half of getting out of high school. I was like, I'm not doing that stuff. I'm climbing trees. This is the riskiest job ever. I was like, I got to figure out a new way to move up. I got to do
Yeah.
a senior technician. I became a pest control manager, ran around and did service work. So those are little things I learned to just move myself up, and didn't get the education that you have, but definitely one of those things you do in life. I hope everybody does that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was an opportunity as well. I didn't necessarily, fit the mold for, moving into the manager's office. But with everything, you're at the right place at the right time and speaking to the right people, and, opportunities,
Yeah.
Are there, if you're looking.
Yeah. The assistant village manager position had to be eye-opening, I would imagine. More political, like not going into all the politics of it, but just it had to be. You had to learn a lot about the inner workings of government, I would assume.
No, absolutely. And that's something that, while I think that the field perspective is of monumental importance, and it certainly has helped me, in my, role as public works director for a number of communities. Also having an understanding of the politics, and while, it's not necessarily a direct responsibility of somebody in the public works department, it's something that you have to be keenly aware of because, you're dealing with, other agencies. Public works deals with the park district, library district, school districts all the time, the county, government, state agencies, the IEPA and the, Department of Transportation. And, you have to understand the impact of the manner in which you interact with all of these agencies, coupled with the fact that you're consistently interacting with the politicians, the locally elected, board or council members, and be aware of, their needs and their expectations. And, it is an important part of the job that I definitely benefited, in my role as the assistant to the village manager in Northbrook, getting exposed to certain things that I don't think otherwise I would have been if I just did in public works.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's again, it's just another stepping stone to learn more and learn more. You're a growth mindset. I can tell already. That's the biggest thing. It's just like learning and grabbing on to more things. And you're you and I talked prior to this, and asset management has become like a thing for you, right? It's like one of those things you enjoy. You kind of mentioned it, and can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. It's become a catchword in the, public works profession probably over the last 10 years, and maybe in the last 5 really heavily. But it's something that I was exposed to, in depth while I was the deputy public works director in, Lake in the Hills, working under a gentleman by the name of Fred Millard, who was a lifelong, Air Force, major who managed, air bases. And he did a very bureaucratic, but, and federally minded, asset management using, software systems that were developed in the 70s and 80s just for the military, way before what, we now see or understand as asset management in the public works field, was around. And he drilled it home the importance of understanding through having your, condition assessments, tied to your, asset inventory, your life cycle cost analysis, your replacement, budgeting, your, understanding of how you interface with, maintenance and operations procedures with all of your infrastructure, and then putting that together in a plan so that you can definitively say, this is what I should be spending every year in order to make sure that, our community members are getting the most, out of their money.
Yeah.
And from that, I grew into an interest that I didn't otherwise understand. I feel like my approach to public works before that was more catch as catch can. If something's broken, then you fix it. And rather than spending the majority of your time um, doing the inspections and consistently making sure that everything is as it should be.
Yeah. No, that's it's great. It's hard to find directors that are in that, enthusiastic about like learning more about like a hydrant, simple stuff, a hydrant. Well, when's it need replaced? How much maintenance have we done on it? All that adds up. It's all data. You start talking about data, and that is stuff we as in public works, we need to start focusing on organizing that data, right? And how to prioritize it then.
Yeah, data is that is the premise of the interaction of data is the premise of how asset management can work for you. And I think that a lot of times for communities or department leaders that haven't had experience with asset management, it's a scary concept. It's definitely broad, and depending on how deep you drill into it, it can be very deep. So it's a lot. And I think what we have as a responsibility as public works managers and asset managers is a responsibility to try to demystify the subject and make it more approachable, make it easier to understand, and to offer tools and resources to communities who are looking to implement asset management but don't necessarily have the wherewithal or the in-house knowledge base to do so.
Yeah, because now I have familiarity with data, and just my last startup we did a lot of data curation, just pivot tables and things like that, where we prioritize assets, and that was one of our go-tos for helping prioritize capital projects, right? So where do you think, because I have a lot of live events and conversations with a bunch of other directors and things, adoption of technologies has been a big hurdle for public works departments, and you've been pioneering it in your end. But how do other municipalities start to get over that hill and really start embracing tech?
Sure, there are a ton of built-in obstacles to public entities investing in technology that may not be fully proven or used broadly, and that could very well be a missed opportunity. I think that as as those who are responsible for trying to find more efficient ways or more effective ways of carrying out our responsibilities, it's incumbent on us to keep an ear to the rail, to learn about what is coming down the pike, or to learn about what new technologies are available and out there. And so I think one of the best ways to do that is to have some sort of technology or innovation focus, whether it be a team member who has a natural penchant for um, uh, reading about it or following trends. For me, that's definitely not me. While I do try to be progressive in implementing ideas that will improve the village of Wheeling and its asset infrastructure system, I rely on networks. So I have close friends who are within my cohort and directors in other communities who are more tech savvy than I am, who let me know about programs and software and opportunities and companies that are kind of leading the way, and I engage and I try to see how it fits into our business model, see how we could improve what we're doing, or to leverage what products they have to make life easier.
Yeah. No, it's a great place to be right now. I think, as more acceptance comes and we become more transparent and we can be more cooperative, as you and I kind of alluded to earlier, um, it's a very important place, because, as we were talking beforehand, is infrastructure service companies. They are limited on labor like you are, but if we can organize this information and keep it to where we can make it beneficial for multiple municipalities to benefit from that certain service company that's working in a general area, that would be very beneficial to a lot of communities and price breaks and things like that. So we could definitely make a big difference down the road with some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
way tech's getting into. But you've been a pioneer for like cooperatives and things like that. It sounds like, and asset management. So, what have you been working with some of your other colleagues in the space? What have you guys been implementing? Any certain types of programs?
Sure. Well, from an asset management perspective, absolutely. The American Public Works Association Chicago Metro chapter created an asset management committee in 2021, and they asked me to participate in that endeavor as a chairperson to build a committee and to start serving as a resource to other communities who are interested in starting an asset management program or improving the asset management program. So right now we have a committee that focuses on leveraging technologies and improving their ability to select the software if they're looking to implement an asset management software, to interface with the national level of the APWA on asset management issues, as well as to put on educational opportunities for the chapter. So we typically put on 3 or 4 presentations of various sorts every year, and it's been good. We have a good cross section of communities that have fully developed and well ensconced programs, such as Buffalo Grove and Schaumburg. Wheeling, we just went live with our software program in March of this year, so we're brand new. We've got a fledgling program that, while it's in its infancy, our organization as a whole went through the pain point of implementation, and it's never fun to implement one of those holistic, large software programs. Northbrook is just coming online. They have Steve Fritz. He's a member of the committee. They're in the process of selecting the software. Crystal Lake is represented as well. So we have communities of various levels of experience or places with the program development. We also have a couple of private sector representatives as well from consulting engineering firms who either have asset management experience directly or GIS and mapping geospatial experience, and which is obviously integral to asset management as we know it today. So education is important. That's really what we've been focusing on recently.
Yeah, you mentioned implementation, and I've talked to some sewer operators in the space. And one thing that I thought was interesting when I had a conversation with them is they said technology is making things more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting. And I'm trying to figure out like how it's making it more difficult. And I'm not sure if you could maybe give some insight to that, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that too? Like where they just think it's go ahead.
Yeah, from the worker's perspective, from a maintenance worker's perspective, they're used to doing something a certain way for the last 60 years. And now you hand them a tablet and you say, go out. And now what I want you to do is you have to interface with this piece of electronic equipment every time you touch a tool, every time you fix a sign or take off a tree limb or repair a trip hazard or whatever. And it's not that they don't understand. They're like, this is extra work. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to go out there and fix the thing, or do you want me to sit here and monkey with the data all day? And it's like, well, we want you to do both. Because now data is really more of a driver of what we do. It wasn't, and I understand that.
Yeah.
And I can speak, Public Works was not the Public Works 20 years ago. I came into the field in 2002, and it's a different, the trucks look the same and the tools look similar, but it is not, because we are looking to make data-driven decisions. They say, it takes me more time to play with the tablet than it does for me to do the work. Okay, yeah, we have to improve on that, and that's hard.
Yeah.
Why do you want me to track all this? Are you trying to get rid of my job? that makes it hard for them, because it instills, unless it's well communicated, a level of fear. Why am I? So you're trying to be more efficient? Does that mean less of me?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. In fact, if anything, we're trying to make a case for why we have the labor levels that we have. It's important that I'm able to go to the board or to my boss, to the village manager, and say, we have a vested interest in keeping these programs in house, and here's the data that shows that we are efficient, or we weren't efficient and now we are because we've implemented these improvements based on what we've learned on how we interact with the infrastructure.
I'm telling you, man, I'm smiling because just the conversations I've had, like you've had, and we want to have a great public works departments that is, the operators are technology focused now. You know what, and you want to keep your job. Like, you want to keep, like, that's the thing, is like, we want technology to help make us more efficient, so that you like you said it, you nailed it. You're like, so I can go to council and say, this is why we need more people, because customer service is going to be a more focused aspect of our business. I mean, it's going to be, you need to go to Mrs. Mary's house and take care of whatever. The municipalities are going to start focusing on customer service more than anything. So technology is going to have to help drive that, I think. And this is just me spitballing my opinions, obviously, but it's one of those things where if you want to get more people in public works, you adopt the technology, you become more efficient, so you can do more things, you can hire more people. I mean, that's seems to where it should be going. And that seems like you're on the same path there with that. And that's one thing, is we were talking about on this live event a couple months, or actually yesterday, I forget the days now, but anyway, we were talking about the future of public works should be branded as technology driven, not like this is the way we did it 60 years ago. It's got to change to, like, we're using tablets now, we're data driven, we're public works. So anyway, that's
Absolutely.
my little rant. So,
it's a rant. It's not a rant. It is the song that you're singing, and I am right there with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, we're not going to solve all those problems today on the podcast, but one of those things that I think we all need to start talking about. You're right on the money with that. You got to have data, so you can go to council, you can visually display what's going on, because everyone's got to see it. Because of hearing it, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. That's the way the things are moving. So we can get technology into this asset management and move it to where you can show council why you need the funding or why you need the labor force that you need. And it'll help justify your stance on what you believe as a public works director. How are you dealing with the labor shortages, though, as everyone else is? I mean, is there, I don't know. Have you been struggling with it?
There's a lot of wood. No, I don't. I have, we are fully staffed as a department in-house. And I think the place that we've seen more of a challenge is in the contractual side. Costs are going up because contractors can be more picky on what they do, because there's more work than they can swing a shovel at.
Yeah.
So they're getting fewer bids and higher bids, and
it's not sustainable. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, it's not sustainable because it's just it's a vicious tornadic cyclone, upward spin. It just keeps on going and going, and it feeds itself. It's self-perpetuating. We have to raise more revenue in order to be able to pay for the same amount of work that costs 25% more. And if it's every year, then something's going to give.
Yeah, something's definitely got to happen, or we need more money from somewhere to help fund these projects, because you got to keep the projects going, but you can't charge a homeowner a 50% bump on their rates. That's going to be a problem for everybody.
So, absolutely.
Yeah, should be interesting to see how this all plays out. But as far as asset management goes, and public works, what are some of your future visions of what you can see and how you want to do things?
In the future, I think that we're going to see a lot more shared services, or at least consideration of getting together with other municipalities to understand how they do what they do. There are very few. There are fewer and fewer communities that operate in a vacuum, and it's by necessity that they have to become part of the think tank. And
Yeah.
I think if you look back 15 or 20 years, there were a lot of communities where, there was no interaction. And more, I see the other directors coming to, have, just yesterday, we had a director's lunch. There was, 8 of us sitting at a table and talking about, what's happening, understanding who, is worth giving a call from a contractor's perspective, who you might want to pass over. And I think that, as we move, down the road, we're going to want to have some sort of tool or service where we're able to interface with, each other through, through a single point where we can say, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Communication is going to be key for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
no, that was it. That's where I think we're going.
yeah. I think communication is going to have to be improved. Siloing data, which we've habitually have done in procurement and in local governments, has restricted our ability to get better pricing, better communication among public agencies, that kind of stuff. Because we're all, well, this is our silo in our finance department. We kind of run everything and nothing gets communicated, like what contracts we have between each other. Or if a contractor does a bad job and then it comes to your bid and then they bid on yours and then you award it and then you didn't know they did a bad job. Just imagine that, all that continues to happen. Get some, I don't like to say bad apples, but bad apples become bad apples and they continue to get bigger sometimes if you don't know where they're, not giving you the good workmanship and stuff like that, for example.
Absolutely. And I just, beyond, looking at who's out there that we interface with from a consulting, perspective or a contracting perspective, just having an understanding of how others do it, helps me, number one, benchmark my services to say, am I doing, as well as I can be? And I'm going to compare myself to communities A, B, and C. But then also just to help solve the problems that we all face. Just, you can't know everything. You don't know everything, but collectively we do. Collectively, somebody has the answer. And as long as your network is large enough, you'll find somebody that'll be able to help you get to where you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You're 100% right. And consolidation, cooperation, all those things, working together in unison is going to break down the silos, man. There's no reason for us to continue in that traditional world.
Absolutely.
You're right on the money with what you've said. So if you could give anyone a recommend, like getting in the public works, right? We're looking for people and moving up in public works. What kind of recommendation would you tell a young professional now coming into the industry?
Coming into the industry, I would say that, the APWA is the one-stop shop to start and develop relationships, because at the end of the day, the relationships are what is key, and not just within your organization. The desire to continue to progress through your profession requires continuing education and a desire to learn, for which there are resources in the APWA, both for scholarships and for technical training courses. But most importantly, you're meeting the people who do what you do, and a lot of them have been doing it for longer, and they're the ones who are going to be able to help you navigate the challenges that ultimately come up for all of us on the daily. They'll help you be prepared to get ready for that interview, or that, taking that next step, that will give you the resources that will help you better understand your responsibilities, or understand the responsibilities for the position for which you'd like to apply in the future. And just beyond that, they're there to serve as a resource, and it's fun at the same time. You always have an opportunity to go to a Cubs game or whatever other social event they have going on. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, you're right, man. APWA is a great resource for everyone to join. And one thing I need to do on my side too. We talked about that before, and I'm gonna work on that for sure. But yeah, no, this is good information, Dan. I truly appreciate it. The goal is to educate young professionals, try and give them insights of like your job every day, how you got in the industry, and what you do. in a day-to-day world of public works. So this information that you're sharing is very helpful. So I truly appreciate it. How can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, give me a call. My number's on the Wheeling website. I'd be happy to serve as a resource in any way that I could. I'm also right now I'm active with the Fox Valley branch of the APWA, and I'm working as the current president. I'm happy to talk. My email is also on the website at wheelingill.gov. So
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and our time went fast. It's already over, so 30 minutes, and we'll chat some more. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, and hope you have a great day.
It was my pleasure, Chad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast. We hope that this show brought you some insight on relevant topics within the infrastructure world. Please join us every 2 weeks on Tuesday for the next episode. If you're interested in being a guest on this podcast, please set up a 15-minute interview with your host at calendly.com/Chad Smeltzer.